Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to a member sponsored video. So if for some reason you didn't know, the Book Refuge has channel memberships. You can check those down in the description below, or else if you're on YouTube there should be a little join button. This is one of the tiers where channel members get to vote on a video of mine that they want to support, as well as there are a whole bunch of other benefits like getting content early, like getting a say in some things that I make, getting behind the scenes information. It's super awesome. It's great. Also, I recently launched a merch line which has Book Refuge, romance merch, as well as Rake Appreciation Society designs. So definitely check that out down below. Very excited about it. So this video, I put up the poll and I was not surprised that this video won at all because it's what I would have voted on. And it's going to be best smut scenes. So this probably will still be one of the quicker videos that I do because I'm going to be like, yeah, the sex is really hot in this. And I might point towards a certain scene, or I might say like sex overall. Also, just know any of the book that I'm holding up, there may be like slight spoilers because some of the sex scenes I need to kind of like explain why they're so impactful. And for me, I picked these smut scenes based on scenes that really touched me because there's this thing I call is like crying through the smut. For me is when a romance is very impactful. Yes, I am here for the smut, but I'm also here for that emotional, like gut-wrenching feeling that I get when I'm reading said smut, okay? Like it's more than just banging when it feels good, okay? When you feel it. So when I hold up the book, know that if this is one you haven't read yet, or it's one that, you know, you don't want even the mildest details for, you might want to click till I'm holding the next one because I will, you know, do slight spoilers for them. And the reason why I gave that warning is the very first book, some of these books are new releases, and the very first book is a new release, and that's Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin. This book is a taboo romance because it is between a 18-year-old student and her teacher slash the headmaster slash a priest at this Catholic private all-girls school. It is one of Pam's like lighter books, if we want to call it that, but also it was still just delicious. And particularly there is a sex scene in this book that isn't even the full one, because there is lots of full sex scenes in this, but it's one of their first like really letting go with each other. And it involves Tinsley's period. Okay, she has had a humiliating experience with her period, and I'm not laughing because it's like funny. I'm laughing because it just like makes me want to cry. It's so beautiful the way that Magnus doesn't want her to feel embarrassed, the way that he is in awe of her life because he sees her having her period as it being this like life force literally coming from her. And they have this scene where she is showered in the shower there, and he puts in her tampon. And I know that that can't seem sexy. I know it, but it was like, oh my, because the things that he's saying and the connection that they're having, and she's trying to fight their feelings and he's not fighting their feelings anymore. And she doesn't want him to lose his job. She doesn't want anything to happen to him. And he just couldn't give two fucks anymore because he is obsessed with this woman and what she does to him and the way that they have this elemental shift around each other. So wowza, this is but also this book, very smutty. I am, like I said, this is like best smut scenes. For most of these, I have specific scenes, but again, for some of them, it might just be the whole book because I think all the sex is like that. We'll see. Then I have Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. This one is just for a little more smutty delight, the scene that I picked anyway. Some of you may have heard my rantings before about this book where I love it, but I have been having difficulties with reverse harems because I like reverse harems that have MMF scenes or MMFMM or I don't like when it's either one guy or when the guys don't ever touch, because for me, I want everyone to be connected within the relationships. And that happens to varying degrees in reverse harems. I understand that not everyone's going to be bisexual, but I just feel like if you're going to be sharing a woman, I want to feel the connection between the men too, whether that is like a brotherhood, whether that, not actual brothers, but whether that's like a brotherhood of knights who's looking after a woman, or whether that is the men actually having deep friendships and being willing to share a woman or whatever. But anyway, particularly in this scene, there is these two men. One of them is a, let's call him like a shapeshifter. He's not like shapeshift into an animal, but like he shifts forms, and a vampire. And they have been with each other off and on at different times. And now they found this woman, Esther, who works at a monster brothel and is very like willing to share. She's putting together her harem of men. There's a scene in this one where Esther and Jonathan, the shape-shifting person, they go to wake up August, the vampire, from his daily slumber. So they go down into his chamber and he's still sleeping, and they wake him up together. And I really like that for two reasons. Number one, I love fellatio as wake up in the morning. I love cunnilingus as wake up in the morning. And the thing that in this symbolism, we're literally like bringing him back from death with that. And then he ends up, the vampire August ends up flipping Esther, so he's on top. And then Jonathan joins in with August there. And it's delightful. I love that scene so much. It's so hot. I can't wait for more in this series. It's not going to be about the same harem. It's going to be about a different one. But I loved it. I loved it. There are many great smut scenes in this one. Like, really. But that one's my favorite. Now we have another one that's like super emotional. And I will try not to fully spoil. But like I said, I was going to do that. And that is Still by Kennedy Ryan. Oh man, Kennedy does emotional sex real good, guys. Like, for all the pain she puts me through, she pays up. She pays up with her sex scenes, okay? The pain she puts me through is good. So if you don't know about Still, I don't know what to help you with, but in this book, there is a tragedy that happens to Bristol and Grip. They are married. They are together, they are committed, and they have a tragedy happen in their lives. Spoiler alert, it's related to loss of a child. And Bristol has just been not home. Like, just not home because of it. And Grip, though he is also broken, he is so broken, he refuses to lose his wife to this. He refuses to let it put a wedge between them. He's like, if we're going to grieve, if we're going to have loss, we will share it. We will bear each other's burdens with this. Like, we will. And there's been something throughout the whole series that Grip has been that he wants to have anal sex with Bristol. And I was like, no, your cock's too big. It's not going to happen. Somehow Kennedy Ryan made this anal sex scene one of the most beautiful and emotional sex scenes I've ever read. I was weeping. This anal sex had me crying, okay, because of what it represents for the both of them. And, you know, it's Bristol finally giving over everything of herself, and it's Grip reclaiming his wife, and it's them just being so raw and open to each other. And it's so beautiful. Like, I bawled during this scene. This whole book, actually, but particularly that scene, because it was just, I mean, Grip is a sexy alpha in a lot of ways, but when there's situations like that, it's when our heroine really needs the hero to do it, that it gets me. Then there is The Bully. This is another one that has some really great emotional sex in it. This is a new release as well. But the way I want to describe this is that these two characters, the scenario that they're in, Dean is holding something over Kat's head. He's basically manipulated / she has agreed to be his, you know, willing we'll call it a sex slave for a month. And she's actually kind of okay with this because they've been having some really steamy interactions. However, when these two start having sex with each other and they start experimenting with their dynamic and the way that they have sex, they stumble upon multiple male orgasms without ejaculation. As, you know, 20-year-olds. And they're just so odd by it. Like, seriously, the scene where it happens is so hot because neither of them really knows what's going on. They just know that they're making each other feel so good. And for some reason, these two who hate each other and are enemies are willing to be so trusting and vulnerable with each other that they're able to achieve that. And it scares them how good the sex is and how deep the connection between them is when they were just, you know, like, oh, well, we're going to be fucking for a month. And oh my God, it's so beautiful. Their whole journey. And it starts as like sexual first because that's what Dean is like, you know, eliciting from her is that this is going to be a sexual relationship, but it stuns them both so much how powerful it is. And Sophie writes some good steam, y'all. She writes some good steam. Then actually I have 2 books from the same series, which I didn't even mean them to me. I had started this list when I had only read the first book in the series, and then I read the next book and I was like, oh, that one has really great sex too, so they're both in here. So I actually have both of the books out so far in the Queens and Monsters series. So first up we have Ruthless Creatures. This book is amazing. I'll be quick about this one. There's a scene, there is this thing that's been laid out where they are definitely playing with DNS relationship here in their bedroom stuff, and our hero, Cage, really wants to spank her because he thinks she'll like it a lot. But he's made a deal with her that if anything that he will try to her, like, he'll do to himself first, which number one is a great thing for dominants to do as well. Like, if you're actually living the life, even if a dominant isn't turned on by a thing, he should have done it to himself first so he knows what it feels like. Anyway, sorry, kink responsibly. But he lets her spank him with a hairbrush. And it is the hottest thing I've read in a while. Like, whoo! It's good. It's good. This one is one where I'm saying all the sex in this book. There's a tipping point in this one. This one starts as like a captor-captive, and the heroine Sloane is just crazy and wonderful and refuses to be cowed by this man. And then there comes like a tipping point in the story where now they're like, we are going for this relationship. Like, we're going to try to make it happen. And they have this sex that just, it's another thing, like, it just terrifies the heroine. It terrifies her because he's touching her raw, gooey bits. And she's like, oh shit, I'm not in control of this interaction anymore. Not that she ever really was, but she was like able to keep pace with him in like the banter wise and whatever. And when they have this sexual connection, she is like, I'm fucked because he's making me feel things. I'm not going to be able to keep him as a fuckboy, because that's how she's always looked at her interactions with men after some serious trauma. This heroine has had a lot of trauma. She has kept men as toys because otherwise she can't handle it. And Cage is just like, or not Cage, sorry, this one's Declan. Cage is from the other book. Is just like, no, like, we feel something. This is worth pursuing. And if you can't tell, if you're a fan, like, all of these books have been 6-star reads of the year for me. We're about to do some that are from last year, but a book makes it to 6-star for me when the sex moves me this way. Like, great sex, you can read it in lots of romance novels. Lots of authors write great sex. But when the sex moves me to tears or it hurts, like, that's what it is for me. one other book that I read this year, and this one again, I'm gonna say all the sex in the book, and I just read this book, and it's Where Villains Rise by Giana Darling. It's the second one in the duet, the Villains duet, and number one, we have a heroine who, before the first book, she'd never had an orgasm, like literally, physically, she could not because of medical things, and that has been like worked through, and she's with this hero, Dante, who worships every inch of her, and when they have sex, they both consume each other, and there's no, like, oh my god, the way that Giana writes the sex in this book, it is painfully beautiful. It's painfully beautiful. So good. All right, and now I have a couple that are from last year. So, well, there's another one from this year. Whatever. The Takeover, this had to make it. This book isn't because of its wild and crazy sex that like some of the other ones are. This one is for just actually a very fun, sweet sex scene. And it is the first sex scene that happens between Claire and my baby, Tristan, when they think they're just going to be a fling. And Tristan is her first dick that's not her husband since he died. And just the way that Tristan is able to make this experience fun and sweet and awkward for her. And there's actually a moment during their encounter when she's like, Tristan Miles is fun. And it's exactly what she needs. She isn't prepared for how deep and amazing their relationship is going to be. But I love that initial sex scene where she's trusting someone again and where Tristan is like, whoa, I like this hot mama quite a bit. Also, this is my favorite contemporary romance of all time, so it had to make an appearance in here because, baby. Then real quick, I'm saying Lothaire. Like, this book taps into my id. There's a bloody blowjob. For me, my favorite scene, again, is one that's not a full sex scene, and it's when, just from going down on the heroine, our hero comes in his pants, and he's mad about it, but it's beautiful. So, just throwing that out there. When I think of my favorite smut scenes, I love the scenes between Elizabeth and Lothaire because he just loses his mind. This all-powerful, all-knowing vampire loses his fucking mind for this sweet little human. And then the last one I want to mention is a historical romance, and I did read this one this year, sorry. I should have stopped saying they weren't from this year, but those are the smut scenes that are most forefront in my mind. And that's going to be Devil's Bride by Stephanie Lawrence. This pretty famously has like a 30-page sex scene. And one of the reasons why this makes it in is, again, when sex scenes make me emotional, and the language and the way that she writes, Stephanie Lawrence, like, it's a 30-page sex scene, but it's so beautiful. You're not like, okay, are they done fucking yet? Like, you're so swept up, and the emotion has built us to this point that now that they're finally having sex, it's so beautiful, and you just want them to have everything. Okay, there we go. We did a good job with that. So those are 10 books with my favorite smut scenes. I'll definitely do a part 2 of this sometime, but because most of these are, I think all of these are 6-star books for me, and, you know, they got the good smut going on, so there you go. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check me out on my other social media platforms, which will be linked down below. And yeah, thanks for watching, and you can watch another video right now. Bye.